Got it.
Go ahead.
Hello, welcome to the Backdrop user group meeting for April 25th, 2024. I am Justin Kaiser. I'm a developer in Muncie, Indiana, working with Drupal Backdrop and WordPress. And off to Tim for his introduction.
Thank you, Justin. Um, yeah, my name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim in Deerwood, Minnesota. And yeah, looking forward to our next release here in a few days, which we'll be talking about in a minute. John, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm John Fireball, live in Greensboro, North Carolina, Drupal site builder, doing some backdrop. That's pretty much it. You need to change your handle, Tim, to Deerwood Tim.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that before, but who knows? I don't like to keep changing my justification and sticking with St. Paul Tim is that's where I was born. So
That works for me.
I spent most of my life there, so I still have an affinity, and it's not too far away. Anyways, so normally this week would be a design, or excuse me, a user group meeting. However, we just had Backdrop Live a few weeks ago, where we did a lot of discussions and topics, and we haven't scheduled any user group topics yet. Last 2 weeks ago, we did a recap of Backdrop Live, and we were supposed to get a topic selected for today, and we didn't. So what I'd like to do today is start out and plan at least the next one or two topics for the user group. And then because we do have a release, the 1.28 release for Backdrop is coming out on May 15th, and Feature Freeze is early next week. And basically, Feature Freeze means any new features, they have to be committed by May 1st in order to be in that May 15th release. Otherwise, they'll have to wait till the next release, the 1.29. Yes. Bug fixes, simple UX improvements, things like that can get in almost any time. But anything that's like a completely new feature, we need this little bit of buffer so that people can test and experiment with them before they actually go live. And sometimes we can catch bugs or make last minute improvements to them if they're in by our feature freeze. So with that deadline coming up, there are a few things we could talk about and get some feedback on sort of new issues for Backdrop. Okay, starting with uh, picking a topic for next time. I don't remember the one topic that I know we talked at the last meeting a little bit about if there were things from Backdrop Live that we might want to repeat during the session. And one thing I know that came up was DDEV. There's at least one or two people who weren't able to make it to our DDEV discussion at Backdrop Live, and it wasn't recorded. So doing that during a user group meeting or some version of it. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be just DDEV, but talking about those kinds of tools during a user group meeting might be a topic. John, I forget, were you at Backdrop? How much were you involved in the most recent Backdrop Live?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't attend that session, but
Sure, but my question would be if there were any topics you found particularly useful that you participated in that you think might be worth doing again at a user group meeting, or any topics inspired by something that you learned at Backdrop Live. Sorry
uh,
to put you on the spot, but
actually, I'd have to go back and look at the agenda.
okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually open up the list and share my screen. So that's not a bad idea. Uh, oh, but I'm having a brain freeze. So there it is.
I'm always interested in the issues we have around layouts. Um,
Okay.
the
Well, yeah. Um,
I mean, I'm
here,
on the same page as Joseph on a couple of the things that he has issues with, but
sure. So these are the topics. I don't remember, Justin, have we done any user group meetings about AI?
Not specifically.
Okay, and was that one recorded?
No.
I didn't think so. And do you feel like there was enough that a user group meeting on AI might be warranted? Would we have enough to talk about?
We would probably have enough to talk about, but not like actual real things. Because we were talking about like potential modules and potential
Sure.
LLMs.
Did you like show, I know we don't have anything in backdrop probably to show. Did you consider or did anybody show anything in Drupal, like
I
demo
did.
it? Okay.
I did.
Because that might be worth redoing. I think to talk about AI could go in two directions, one of which would just be how people are using it in their backdrop work, even if it is not integrated. For example, if you had, you could talk to how it's been helpful to you in trying to port modules, or whether it has been helpful at all.
Yes.
If you were willing to, I think that's of interest. And then also we could look a little bit about what's happening in Drupal or I have been trying to get or thinking for since before the new year about connecting you with a friend of mine who's very interested in backdrop, who's very interested in AI and also knows backdrop and has suggested a possible willingness to work on an AI module.
Well, the thing with that happened recently is backdrop specific was that Arena and I had the project of getting asked about backdrop upgrade status at mid-camp and having it in your Drupal 7 site after you analyze the modules and which ones are available in backdrop, having it just print off a list to the screen of the machine names at the bottom of that report. So you could then take that list and use it as a B command in the command line and get all the modules that you need in a blank backdrop site. Or just have them come out as a list so you could just cut and paste that list into the project installer in a backdrop site, and then you'd get all your modules and you wouldn't have to go through searching for all of them. And I made a patch for the module that did that. It was relatively easily, and well, GPT helped out tremendously with it. It was really wrong at the beginning, but you know, I got it to do the right thing.
Okay. Well, I have a feeling that would be a good topic if we have somebody like yourself and I know you're not always excited about like doing a presentation, but if you could at least demo a few things and sort of get the discussion going, you know how we like to do these. Is that something you'd feel comfortable about and sometime in the next couple of user groups? We could push it out a little bit, just give more time for things to come up.
Yeah, we can do it. I'm okay with it.
Okay, it wouldn't be bad if we could come up with 3 topics. So, I mean, are you thinking we might be up for that in 2 weeks, or should we give it a little bit more time?
I might be up for it in 2 weeks. I mean, okay. It wouldn't be out of the question.
Okay, let's go ahead and put it on the agenda. You can think about it, get back to me if you change your mind, but and we can also ask if anybody else has some experiences that they want to share at that. I think we'll get definite interest in that. I'll try to get my friend David Radcliffe to come.
And I did make I did make that little itty bitty module that did generative summaries, but
you did that since Backdrop Live, so that's something.
No, well, I haven't touched it in a few months, but
I'm okay. That's the one before. Yeah. I got him. Okay.
Yeah, I was in that session.
Okay. Do you have anything to add, or what you would like to see if we had a follow-up discussion?
I can't think of anything in particular, but
Okay.
it was interesting having Justin explain how he did it.
Good. Okay, so I definitely think the DDEV one, let's talk about the DDEV one for a minute. Justin, were you at the discussion we did have? No, well, you might have been. It was late in the evening on Thursday.
Yeah, I was
Do
at
you
it.
remember? Okay. So it doesn't have to be that discussion. I mean, that one was very ad hoc. It ended up, I think, mostly being me sharing what I was doing with DDEV for local development. And then
Greg
Greg,
showing his Greg
Greg showing
Greg showing
his
us his creation that
yeah,
It was awesome script.
in great detail. He showed us his creation and his script, and he's now shared that script. And I mean, we could do a whole session on just sort of that script and learning from it and what people can do, but I'm not sure if that's the best use of our time. That wasn't really DDEV specific at all. In fact, most of that script used DDEV as one tool, but it was really a very extensive bash script, right, for setting up sites. I don't know if we were to redo that in a user group, Justin, do you have any thoughts offhand about, what you might do different or what you might include that didn't get included, or? I think go ahead.
I would keep it simpler.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I think Greg's use case is kind of fringe, and so what you might be suggesting is to focus on more commonly used things and not quite go that deep. Is that the direction you're saying?
Yeah.
Or yeah, okay. I think that's a good thought. I mean, should it be more DDEV focused, or could it be, like I think that really wasn't a DDEV session. That was a like command line scripts for local development that included the use of DDEV.
Right.
And we could do something more focused on like DDEV, but because not everybody uses DDEV, I feel like well, it's still useful to
Yes,
talk about.
I think it should. I would benefit from something very DDEV focused because
Okay.
all the DDEV talk is starting to work on me. I'm thinking I should try it again.
Well, why don't we, if one, I've thought about reaching out to one or two people in the DDEV community that aren't really in the background community to just come and answer questions for us. The guy who did the session at MidCamp.
Yeah,
I bet we could recruit him. I know
I
him well from camps, and I
yeah,
think he
I
would probably love to come and talk.
yes, I think you would.
Were you at that session at MidCamp?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that, and let's go ahead and focus it on DDEV. I've been a little reluctant because I don't want to be too biased in favor of one tool. But if somebody else wants to talk about another tool, I'm happy to do that at a different meeting. And we'll allow time for questions. People can ask questions about things other than DDEV, but let's go ahead and focus it on that, and let's go ahead and put that down here.
My interest in DDEV is for you being able to use something other than Docker Desktop.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that, I think, yesterday. Well, let's see if there's one more we could do, come up with. Things like porting modules we've done before during user group meetings, and we could do them again. I do think John mentioned revisiting layouts. That's another topic that we've certainly done during user group before, but we could do it again. Civi CRM. Yeah, well, we did one fairly recent. I should have a list. Actually, at the bottom of this agenda, I have past topics. And we do have topics going back further. And I think Civi CRM is not on this list, but I think it does within the year before that we did Civi CRM. Another one we could always redo. I think something on theming. Have we done anything on theming? Well, we did converting your Drupal 7 theme, but that's very specific. So I don't think we've done anything. I think we should, I don't know, I'd be inclined to just do an introduction to theming.
That would probably be a very popular.
I think it would be it. Yeah, in planning Drupal events, like doing something on beginning theming always gets butts in the seat. Let's just do that. An introduction to theming for Backer. Yeah, introduction to theming for Backer.
Our theming guy just showed up.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't speak for him, but I don't know if Joseph considers himself a themer at all, actually. But he does do sort of tools, right, Joseph? Tools for making your site look better, if not necessarily theming.
Yeah, like I can make themes, but it's not my forte.
Well, because you talk so much about like layout stuff, I think people associate that with theming.
Okay. Maybe.
And so they associate you as a themer, but I know I've heard you say you don't really consider yourself a themer. So.
I think probably the thing is like there's some sort of like you have to have an eye for design type stuff.
Right.
And like I can look at a page and say it's not right, but I can't tell you why, and I can't come up with a good way of fixing it. So
well, I think some themers would argue that their job isn't to come up with a design solution. Their job is to implement it. But
okay, fair enough.
I
guess I'm okay at implementing a design.
Right. So Joseph, their plan for today's meeting was to talk about upcoming topics. Oh, Greg joined us too. So I'd like you, Greg, is anybody else here? No, there's 5 of us. Okay. I'd like you to give some quick feedback. We came up with 3 topics for the next 3 user group meetings, and then I thought we'd just move into a design UX meeting because of the release coming up. And we didn't have a user group meeting topic for today. So these are 3 we basically looked at, I'm sharing my screen, right? We looked at the topics that were in the last Backdrop Live. And the AI topic, I don't think we've covered in a user group meeting before. And I just know there's interest around it. And so we put that on. And this would be a combination. There isn't like much. Justin has done a few small things with Backdrop directly in AI. He's also experimented with AI for porting modules and writing code, and he knows a little bit about the Drupal modules that are available. And so the thought was we would just talk about those various things. And I think for me the goal would be to stimulate more people taking an interest in how to use Backdrop CMS and AI rather than necessarily showcasing what we've done so far, because that's not too much. So that was one topic. The other, Martin in particular was really interested in the DDEV session. The DDEV session it wasn't really a DDEV session. Maybe you guys heard some of this already, but it was more of a command line tool thing. Justin suggested that maybe it wouldn't hurt if we focused a little bit more on DDEV, even though it's a very specific tool that not everybody uses. And I mentioned even maybe trying to get there was a guy who did from Lando to DDEV session at MidCamp, who I'm pretty sure we could get to come and participate at least. I don't think I would ask him to give a big presentation, but I'd ask him to be there and answer questions because he's active in the DDEV community. Okay. And then we just threw out this introduction for theming, not as anything specific from Backdrop Live, but just as something I know is of interest to people at Backdrop Live. It's always of interest to our community. And we haven't recently done a theming user group. Do either of you have any feedback on those three suggestions? And or we could go another one out or another topic that we should schedule.
Yeah, I like them all.
Okay.
If I think that in the thing that I had in mind, we could squeeze it in the theming for backdrop for the introduction thing, and
Okay.
it was the discussion of like I don't know expectations from people for the like if it seems that we are all in agreement that we want to include two new themes, front end and a back end theme for backdrop 2.0 for whatever that would be. And I would like to get a sense of what people expect from these themes, like from an admin theme, like what they want from
Sure.
from a practical point of view, like what is not covering. Is it just a refresh of design, or is it things that 7 and bases don't do then?
Sure. So here's what I would suggest on that topic, Greg, is I think of the user group meetings as much more how to use backdrop, not how to make it better at core. Now, we alternate the user group meetings with design UX meetings. So I think your topic would be, we could cover at any design UX meeting, but I think what you're looking for is maybe a focused discussion on that particular topic. And I would schedule that for one of the design UX meetings rather than a user group. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, I don't mind either way. It just sounds like a topic that was related to that theming thing. That's why I mentioned it.
Sure. Yeah, but for this one, I think, again, I'm visioning a much more, here's how to like do a custom theme, right? And I think you want to have what could be a whole discussion about how to improve, like, were you I'm sorry, admin theme? We could do it on both admin theme and core theme and the front end theme, right? Because
Yeah.
there's also, sure.
It is more of try to do this thing, or I would expect that the base the core admin theme would do this, but it doesn't do that, and things like that. Not what they expect it to look like from an aesthetic perspective, but features that would allow them to do more with theming. And in the case of the admin theme, I don't know what people expect. Like, is 7 doing it for them, or?
Sure. I think that any of our meetings where we have a topic picked in advance gets better attendance. So if we did a design UX meeting focused on these questions, I think we'd get more people to come to it. And so, yeah, I'm going to suggest that we do this like shortly after the release. So maybe between May 15th will be the release. I would do this after the next release. So maybe between the May 23rd and the June 5th meetings, we'll have a design UX meeting, and we actually plan this as a topic and and talk more about how to make core better. And I mean, just how to make a core better for themers. Would that be a part of your topic, or were you thinking much more?
Yeah, what people in general, because it's like I think it's two different audiences.
Right.
So there's features that themers would like from the front end theme, because they the expectation is that people sub theme it, and then there's what site builders would expect from 7 as an admin theme.
Okay.
So it would be what features are missing, or what people would like from the current themes that are not there. Like, for example, a common thing that for the admin theme is like we want support for a dark theme, things like that.
Okay. Okay, let's move on, but I'm gonna suggest that we take that topic, put it into the design UX meeting, right in between those two. Right. We might bump it up into between these two, but we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna delete this. I'll do that after. Anything else any other topics that we could get on the schedule for either? I think it'd be okay to schedule design UX topics. If not, I think we've done enough here, and what I'd like to do is focus a little bit on the next release coming up. So when is Feature Freeze? It's like Tuesday, isn't it? I'm looking up when is May 1st. No, May 1st is Wednesday. So
Wednesday.
that is Feature Freeze. So we've got basically 7 days. Still 5 of us here.
5.
Sorry, I was responding to
ahead.
a message, so I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. I'm going to keep sharing my screen, but switch from this agenda. Well, to the, why don't I do this? I sort of created a document of issues that I've seen being active that we could talk about that could possibly get into. Some of these aren't features, so not affected by Feature Freeze. The ones at the top mostly are features. The design, config is not, more of a regular dev meeting. The SVG issues, we have 2 of those. I know the icon font and SVG, they could be design issues, but I think they're getting a lot of attention in the developer meeting, so I wouldn't use our time here. This layouts for specific content type areas. I feel like since I've been advocating for that, I feel like I've been using up too much of our time talking about that one issue. On the other hand, it's sort of blocked now. Greg, I don't think you've responded since your last comment in the issue queue.
Well, it's not that I didn't want to respond. It's just that I wanted to let other people,
Yeah.
like yourself, let
Yeah.
other people speak as well.
No,
Sure, it's kind of
and I
politely.
appreciate that. I think that was good. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. The only thing that I would summarize, and I'm probably I'll summarize it in the dev meeting and probably add something, is that since we have spoken as well after my last comment there, I understand the point that Doc Wilmot is making as an argument of when people creating new layouts, they're doing it because the default layout doesn't suit them. So why are we going to start them off with something that is going to be like the default layout and expect them to work off of that?
We have.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about who's in the meeting that hasn't commented on this issue. Justin, I know you've commented in discussions we've had.
It's not necessarily that you want a different layout.
Right.
It's that you want to control the blocks in a different way for that one specific content type.
I mean, both of those.
It may
things
be
are
the
true.
same layout.
I'm going to do just the 30-second demo of this for John, who I think may be unfamiliar with the issue, or correct me if I'm wrong, John.
Was this the field blocks issue that we talked about?
Yeah, so you might have been at the discussion at Background Live.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a rather extensive discussion with a lot of opinions.
And we're still a little bit there. So really quickly, what we're although we're focused on a very specific question right now, and I wouldn't mind getting your opinion on this as a completely fresh set of eyes. So basically the PR right now, and the PR has changed a hair since you would have last seen it. So if you go to edit ignore this bug. If you go to edit a content type, there would be this manage layouts tab. Although that might get changed. That's not been a focus of our discussion yet. But right now, if you click on that, you have this link to create a layout for the event content type. And one of the changes since Backdrop Live is this option that you can use field blocks, and you can pick some blocks, but you can also keep the main content block active. But the thing this is where the blocker is some people feel pretty strongly that when you click on this, you should go directly to the next stage. You should, instead of getting these options, it should just take you here. Now, I wouldn't, as Justin just was pointing out, I wouldn't argue that there's no use case for that. Sometimes you need a new layout, even if you want to use the same layout template. You just need the context to change, right? And that's what this helps with. I think one of the questions would be, though, like how often is that the case, and how often is that you want to use a different layout? Anyways, I think the argument in favor of jumping right to here is just, well, I get the feeling that it's primarily targeted at newer users who you just want to make this process as easy as possible the first time they do it. So they kind of see what's happening rather than, sort of going to something like this, which is a little harder to understand, to get directly to this. And then if they want to change the layout, they can go, the layout template, they can go back to this. Go ahead.
Is that if you go to like the main layouts page and just click add layout, it takes you to the one where you pick the
It does
template,
too.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think it should be different.
Okay. Anyways, we're sort of bogged down on that right now, is that we have at least one or two vocal proponents of the other option, and then most people seem to prefer that you first pick your layout and then you can click on the field blocks. I hesitate to talk for people. I've done too much of that in the past, talking for people who aren't here. So I think, but Doc Wilmot is the author of this, and he feels like but my understanding is that he feels pretty strongly that like jumping right to the blocks is just not a good idea. And so he's sort of stopped. He's waiting for additional feedback before doing any additional work. And yeah, so I don't know what to do.
He just joined the meeting, by the way.
Oh, did he? Welcome, Doc Wilbon.
All right, guys, just passing through. I'm at work.
Okay. Well, we were quickly talking about the layout issue, and
I realize excellent timing on my part.
yes, we seem to be sort of stuck on this, and I think the thing is that and I'm going to go ahead and speak for her because she's not here. Jen has in the previous two meetings has spoken fairly strongly in favor of of going directly to the block layout page, and anyways, and I don't know, Greg, if you want to. I think your last proposal was trying to address those concerns, but I don't know. Are we stuck here? And what do we need to do to get unstuck?
I'm ambivalent. No, we need to get a consensus. I'm not strongly opposed against. What was that? I was just saying that both Jen's arguments and Andy's arguments, they have merit. So on one hand, Jen is suggesting that so that we can speed the process and get the difficult steps out of the way, get people started quickly when they click a box. And then I see the arguments that Andy was making was the consistency with this step, and the counter argument to that. It's fair to say that this is how it's done. So why are we changing the step? Is that going to the layout, the workflow that you had before is like if you go to layouts and you click the add layout, you have absolutely no idea what the person is trying to build. Whereas if you start from the content type, you already know the path and the visibility conditions, right? So you have some things that to work with. The only certain unknowns, and you could guess the layout name as well, defaulted to page layout, or card layout or whatever. So you will have defaults. This is the sort of the difference. I understand the argument of, hey, if people want to change to create a custom layout for a specific content type, they're trying to get away from the default layout. So why are we throwing them in the default layout to begin with? I get that argument. I don't understand or do not agree 100% with the argument of we are making things difficult for experienced users. Because my understanding was that we were building all these features for the less experienced users to provide a shortcut and to expose things that they don't know. More experienced users already know how to do these things.
I
They
don't,
would do it without the feature that we're adding even. But I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying it's
yeah.
not a valid argument, right? As a counter argument. So we need to make a decision. That's where I'm at. So I think that both sides have valid points. Both suggested ways have pros and cons. We just need to weigh them and make a decision.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, as I said, I want us to do the things that we mentioned, and I want this in.
Well,
So I'm prepared to compromise, yes.
I feel a bit the same way. I mean, I know we like to, not, we like to we're comfortable taking small steps towards a goal. I don't think we necessarily like to, though, reverse previous steps if we can avoid that. So there is is there a part of this that we do have a consensus on that we could get in now and make it better later? I think part of the problem with that might be that the right now the divergence is at the first step, and without some consensus about what should happen at that first step, it's
Let me just butt in here a minute.
Yep.
Just to say that I think from the coding it point of view, to be honest, I think the way that I'm proposing that it is, it's actually way easier to to dump somebody into the layout without actually saving a layout, and I think that would require some more thinking. So I think that this way seems to me simpler.
You are referring to using the temp store thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's an interesting part because, right, well, I think part of Jen's argument has been that when you go directly to the layout page, that nothing's been saved yet, so that you basically get here. Right now, the current process is I go to this page, I hit create layout, and that layout is already saved by the time I get to this page. So now if I cancel, the layout still exists. And I think she was arguing that she'd like to get here without saving anything. And then only if she starts to move blocks around and hit save, that then the layout would get saved, basically making it easier to back out of this without doing anything. And actually, I understand the merit of that argument, which is that you don't even, it's sometimes not until you get here that you're really committing to anything, yet you're already here and you haven't saved it. You've already saved something. So.
Yeah, there's two ways that you can go about it. Instead of a cancel button, there could be a delete button. So if you save, so either you don't save it, you have temp store and you don't save anything until you press save, or you save and you provide a cancel button, which is what we're doing there. Or if we do save it and people change their mind, we can provide a delete button there.
Sure. Go ahead.
Should there be a delete button there anyway, like on the normal edit forms?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Should layouts, like at this stage, you mean on this page,
Yeah.
have a delete button?
Yeah. Because if you do want to delete the layout after you inspected it, you have to go back into the layouts page and select the action from there. So you'd have to go to layouts and use the drop down menu to delete it.
Right. Yeah. So that would be the current process of deleting it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting small insight, which
the other thing, regardless, since we're talking about this, and yes, we are blocked can you go back to the structure, select the content type, and then the layout tab?
Sure.
All right. I'm not going to question why the create layout for all content types is there. It could have some use here. But I imagine that we are planning to replicate this link in the main content types listing, right? Where we have a content type somehow start creating, like if you go back into the, like from the, from there, to put it somewhere there where I would expect it, right? I don't expect an answer now, but when people click on that button, like where do they get? What is filled in? Can you just click it for me? quickly?
What, add a content type?
No. The add the layout for all content types. Where do they go from there?
Same thing, but it's
Right.
just, it doesn't have a visibility condition.
Oh, no visibility condition. So right. Yeah. One other thing is that here we could present a series of checkboxes and say which content types you want this to apply for. All of them.
Yeah.
Just this and that. Right. And I'm saying that if I started my workflow from the content types page and I clicked that, I would phrase it as create layout for multiple, not as specific, but for multiple content types. And then it would be, yep, I want to create it for this and that type. So another option here would be which content type should it apply to?
Okay.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. That was one option that I think I discussed that with somebody. I don't remember who it was.
Right.
Probably Tim. I'm not actually happy with the idea right now that we have a separate UI for every single entity bundle. So content types. I think one page per entity. So just one of that page only on the main content type listing makes more sense to me. Instead of one each content type.
Like you're
And that way you
saying,
would be able to select that I want that layout, multiple checkboxes. It could apply to page and post and other all at once, for example.
So instead of this tab, I think instead of that tab, we would have a tab here to manage the layouts. And
Yeah,
we
that's what I was
could,
thinking.
and then we could also, like, under each content type, there could be create a layout link here. So you could do it here instead of actually going into the
I actually
configuration.
like the manage layouts tab there, because that's another shortcut. For example, you would have multiple layouts that you have and they would have an order here, right? You could have a layout specific to this card, but you could also have in certain situations the main for all content types layout apply to this as well, right?
I
Maybe
I hear all of that, Greg, and I don't know if you and I talked about this. I've talked about it with others. I think that is a legitimate use case, but I think it's pretty fringe. It's pretty rare that one website has more than one layout for one content type.
Yeah,
Sure,
fair
it can
enough.
happen. Sure, it's plausible, but I would guess that 1 in 99 sites are going to do that, whereas many sites might have one. So most of the time, you're going to have these pages with just one layout on them. And that's the argument for the other. But I don't feel strongly about that. I could go either way.
Even then, I would rename this tab to manage layout singular and bump people straight to the layout that controls this content type, or say no content type has been created for this as a workflow sort of like logic, right? I want to get
I think we go ahead.
No.
I'm trying to interrupt to just say we're running out of time, and I think there's been a number of ideas here about how to make this better. A lot of these things could easily be follow-up issues that come later, but the thing that I think is really blocking us is this primary workflow about where to go to start with. And so if anybody has ideas to resolve that, I mean, talking about a lot of these other things doesn't do us much good until we figure that out.
So. To be blunt about this, to be honest, I think so far only 2 people prefer the idea of going straight into the ad blocks page. That's Greg and Jen, and we've had multiple people say otherwise on the issue queue. I think it's probably something like 6-2 right now. I don't know how we're going to unblock it. But if we're going to be democratic, it sounds like this
I would-
current
I would
UI
argue-
winning.
I would argue that it's 1.5 to 6.5 because I'm not strongly saying that we should do the other thing. I'm just saying
Right.
that both
Yeah.
have merit. So
Yep.
Right.
yeah.
So what I'd like to do actually is I would like to create a different PR with, instead of the page for every single bundle, just one page per entity, and then we can compare the UI for
Sure.
the two. But both
Sure.
of them, to me, will still be select the template first. That's what I think we should do.
Okay. And I, again, unfortunately, Jen has been our most vocal advocate for the other approach. And I think I've heard at least an interest or willingness on her part to sort of compare, or, that there might be some compromises. I think seeing these two options would definitely help us get towards a compromise. And then we just have to see if we can get Jen to chime in again, because we don't know. We really haven't heard from her since some of the new things have happened. So, okay. I'm going to ping her directly and see if she wants to step up and say something, and then Andy, go ahead.
I just like to say, I think that Doc said that he doesn't like going into the default layout. And I don't like it either.
Okay.
My feeling is most of the pages I've ever built have views on them. So it just seems like Boxton lends itself to views a lot easier than having sidebars in there. If you want a sidebar, then you can do that, but that's just my opinion.
Right. So you're just arguing that the Moscone is the default, isn't it? For in core, isn't Moscone the default, or is it Moscone flipped?
One of them is the.
I think it's Moscone flipped.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very easy to find this out.
Yeah.
We just go here. Yeah, it's Moscone flipped.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like 7.5 to 1.5 now. So anyway, I gotta go. Sorry.
Well, thank you for dropping in, Andy.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
We need to end this meeting. The real Nate Lampton has joined us.
Hello.
Hi, Nate. I'm
Nate.
not going to be able to stick. Oh, let's end this. I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting. It was supposed to be a user group meeting today. We mostly did design UX stuff and scheduled the upcoming user group meetings. Bye, everybody. I'm stopping the sharing, and I'm going to stop the
Thanks,
recording.
everybody.